Hi, greetings, fellow Arrow fans. Our look at Arrow Season 1 now continues on with the episode Dodger. Or The Dodger. Anyway. The episode opens The episode opens with a museum guard named Jerry, who appears to be helping a man steal the Sherwood Ruby because he was forced to. A high-profile criminal known as the Dodger had placed an explosive device around the man's neck. After he retrieves the jewel, he tasers the hostage unconscious. Felicity is concerned by how Oliver takes on criminals, and finds that the culprit, Kenny Williams, is a widowed father with a 10-year-old son. She overrides his security lock to go out of the Arrow Cave, but when he still refuses to listen to her, she tells him that the idea of her helping him was a mistake, and she quits. In a flashback to the island, and Oliver is bringing water to Slade, whose bullet wound is now affected. Oliver remembers some herbs Yahweh Gulang had in his cave that healed everything. He leaves to go get them. Moira meets with Frank Chen, an old friend. She tells him she wants to get out of the undertaking because it's cost her too much. Walter's kidnapping, Robert's death, and her near death. The two of them had begun the undertaking to fix the city, but have seen their goal crumble. He agrees to help her leave the organization and organizes a meeting with Malcolm. Oliver and Diggle wait in Felicity's office to catch her, as he tries to put Felicity at ease about his vigilante actions by telling her the man she was worried about is still alive, and he gave back the money he stole. A news report talks about a criminal named the Dodger who steals by forcing hostages to wear explosive colors and do the dirty work for them. Felicity offhand mentions that it's too bad that guy isn't in Oliver's book. Seeing opportunity to get Felicity to work with them again, Oliver explains that he does go after normal criminals sometimes. To get her back on the team, Oliver asks Felicity to help them take him down. The Dodger meets Cass Derenick to sell the stolen ruby. The man attempts to rob the Dodger and has three of his men put their guns to the Dodger's face. The Dodger tasers all three of them and shoots Derenick in the head. Oliver, Diggle, and Felicity at the Big Billy Burger restaurant talk about how to approach the Dodger. Felicity interjects and asks about Diggle and Carly's relationship. Oliver explains the relationship and agrees with Felicity, seeing that Dig should ask Carly out. This leads Diggle agreeing to ask Carly on a date only if Oliver asks out McKenna Hall. Felicity suggests they should also bug McKenna's phone and find out what the police know about the Dodger. Diggle awkwardly asks Carly out and agree to dinner that night. Oliver visits the precinct, plants the bug in McKenna's cell phone when she steps away from her desk, and sets a dinner date for that night. Laurel and Thea are walking through the glades when Thea gets mugged. The guy gets Thea's purse, but a piece of his wallet chain snagged on a fence. This leads to Thea's trying to track down stores that might have bought the wallet from the thief. A nervous Oliver tells her he has a date, and after he leaves, Thea gets a possible suspect and calls Laurel with his name, Roy Harper. Flashback to the island and Oliver is grabbing the herbs. He turns around to leave but finds a badly beaten man stumbling to the cave. He sputters, "Help me." Oliver and John listen to a conversation which McKenna talks about the man the Dodger had murdered. Felicity finds out online that it was probably a potential fence. During John and Carly's date, he actually brings up his brother, and she wonders if perhaps the whole thing is too complicated. Oliver's day is going well, until McKenna starts asking questions about the island. He begins to have small flashbacks and becomes more and more withdrawn. She points out that those years must have changed him, and he agrees. McKenna is called away from dinner for work. Oliver calls Felicity and has her activate the bug on McKenna's phone. Back in the flashback, the beaten man tells Oliver he's an exchange student named Alan Durant who got lost during a fishing trip in this class. He tells the suspicious Oliver he was the only one who made it and that he was beaten by soldiers. While the Dodger shows the jewel to a new fence, Claire Abbott, McKenna and her police team raid the building. The Dodger gets out of the building but runs into the hood outside. Just as it begins to chase him, he sets off an explosive collar that allows him to escape. Oliver has Felicity search for the type of antiquity the Dodger prefers, which turns out to be pieces from the ominous decade. There's a fundraising auction the following night for the Starling City Cancer Society, and Oliver thinks they could use it to lure him out. He donates a brooch on behalf of the Queen family as bait. Quinn questions Roy with Laurel and Thea watching through the one-way glass. Wright says his mother was hooked on vertigo and is no longer the same, medically. He's been stealing to try and pay off her medical bills. Thea thinks they should let him go and disregards the value of her stolen purse. Frank tells Moira he's arranged a meeting for her with Malcolm. Both are worried about the consequences. Felicity has put a GPS device in the Queen's family brooch that they have donated as bait. Felicity sees the brooch. It's on the move and catches the Dodger. She sees it in his pocket and stops to question him. He says he's going to take the item. A few moments later, Felicity approaches Oliver and John with one of the explosive collars around her neck. The Dodger told her that if she calls the police, it will go off. She tries to keep Oliver and Diggle away, but John works on deactivating the device while Oliver leaves to find the Dodger with Felicity's help over the phone. Oliver steals a motorcycle and speeds off, with Felicity guiding him via the traffic cameras. Oliver catches up to the Dodger's car and throws an explosive arrow that was stashed in his jacket into a rear tire, which forces the vehicle to flip. The Dodger gets out, holding a remote for the device around Felicity's neck. He says if Oliver touches him, she will die. Oliver quickly severs the median nerve with a fletchet. As he draws his electric prod, the Dodger asks Oliver why he poses him, claiming that they are both the same, because they both steal from the rich. Oliver quickly releases him of his weapon and stuns him with it. He then says that he's not Robin Hood. Back at the party, Felicity's bomb turns off and releases from her neck. Back to the flashback, the bearded man demands Oliver untie him. Oliver agrees and has him turn around. Oliver puts his knife to the ropes, then stops. He says he can't do it because he doesn't know who the man is, then leaves him. John tells Carly he's having a tough time with dating and she thinks perhaps he's thinking too much. He agrees and kisses her. Thea pays Roy a visit at his home. He starts to prejudge her, as he knows all about her background. She replies that she's simply there to retrieve her expensive vintage purse. He returns it to her, and before she leaves, he gives her 2 pieces of advice. 1, stay away from the Glades, and 2, that she shouldn't involve every sob story someone like him tells the cops. Oliver tells McKenna that when she talked to him about the island, it reminded him of hard decisions he had to make. He wonders if he's worthy of actually being with anyone. This, of course, leads to their kissing and her telling him, "You are." Quint interrupts and stops by her desk, wanting her to help him on the Hood investigation. Back to the flashback, Oliver returns to Slade, who asks him if he got into any trouble. No, Oliver responds, not a bit. Moira later meets with China White and asks her to take out a hit on Malcolm Merlyn. Dun dun dun. Yeah. So far, this is a pretty good episode, and I do like the flashbacks to the island, and yeah, of course, I think we all know that things did not work out well for Oliver and McKenna in the end, so yeah. So overall, I give the episode Dodger 4 arrowheads out of 5. Well, anyway, tune in next time as we take a look at the next episode, Dead to Rights. So, until then, in the words of Oliver Queen, you have failed this city.